I was messaging my colleague about the football match when the department director suddenly clapped his hands and smiled ingratiatingly.
This is our new manager, John Smith. Let's give him a warm welcome.
I looked up to see a man in his early 20s standing proudly next to the director. My colleague, David Johnson, leaned in quietly.
He's probably got connections. He just took Mike Brown's manager position as soon as he arrived.
I shrugged noncommittally and yawned. As the end of the workday approached, my colleagues were browsing social media as usual. Unexpectedly, someone's chair was kicked.
Manager, what brings you here?
I looked over to see the new department manager with a stern expression.
Taking money without working, huh? This company isn't a place for slacking off. I'll dock your pay for a day. If I catch you again, you're fired.
After saying that, he gave David Johnson another cold look before walking away. After a hard day's work, isn't it normal to relax a bit before leaving? It seemed the new manager wanted to establish his authority. David Johnson cursed his bad luck, and my other colleagues and I exchanged glances. After work, 3 of us went out for dinner. David Johnson was the first to complain.
What rotten luck. I just opened social media and got caught.
Docking a day's pay for that? This new manager is tough. It's going to be hard from now on.
He's probably just trying to assert his authority. He won't be this strict all the time.
Let's hope so.
The next morning, David Johnson got scolded again. This time, it was because he didn't greet the manager.
The company requires a proper attitude. Is this your idea of proper? If you don't want to work here, just say so.
After that, he started lecturing us.
Listen up, everyone. From now on, when you see me, you must greet me with "Good morning, Manager Smith." Show some respect.
Seeing his pompous attitude, I felt a surge of irritation. He acted like we were his servants. When I went to the restroom, I deliberately walked past him, pretending not to see him.
Stop! Didn't you hear what I just said? Greet me when you see me. Are you deaf or blind?
I'm neither deaf nor blind. But you, on the other hand, seem stuck in the past. The monarchy has been gone for years, yet you still crave such respect. Were you a king in a past life?
Seeing me embarrass him, John Smith's face darkened.
What's your name?
James Anderson.
I replied, meeting his gaze without flinching.
James Anderson, huh? I'll remember you.
I couldn't be bothered with him and went to the restroom. When I returned, David Johnson gave me a thumbs up.
That was bold. From now on, you're my hero.
He then frowned slightly.
But aren't you afraid he'll fire you? I heard from the director that he has strong backing.
I've got my own connections. He won't dare fire me.
I had the biggest connection of all. Unless my dad said otherwise, no one could fire me. David Johnson laughed, thinking I was joking, and warned me to be careful not to give John Smith any more reasons to target me. I shrugged helplessly. No one believed I had connections. At work, James was well liked, and John Smith had been quiet for 2 days since their encounter. However, the silence didn't last long.
Cheerful, I've been watching everyone's performance. As long as you work hard, there will be rewards.
John Smith publicly awarded Robert Wilson a watch.
Obsequious. Thank you, Manager Smith. I promise to work hard and follow your lead.
James watched coldly as Robert Wilson put on a show, knowing he was the most cunning and lazy person in the department.
Surprised, wow, this watch costs over $25,000, that's 4 months of my salary.
This display led the rest of the department to fawn over John Smith. James continued to focus on his work, ignoring John Smith. He didn't need his $10,000 or $20,000.
Excited, let's go to a karaoke bar for a gathering. I'll treat everyone to dinner.
Enthusiastic. Manager Smith is so generous.
Following Manager Smith means good times ahead.
James planned his weekend, thinking of an excuse to avoid the gathering. But John Smith had other plans.
Serious, it's a work-related celebration party, so no one is allowed to be absent.
John Smith gave James a provocative look, revealing it was a trap. James knew he had the biggest connection and wasn't afraid. At the karaoke bar, John Smith entered surrounded by a group of people. Despite his terrible singing, everyone praised him.
Generous, you've been doing well lately. Consider this a bonus. Excited? Manager Smith is so generous. Cheerful, keep up the good work, and there will be more rewards for you.
The others flattered John Smith even more enthusiastically.
Excited, there will be rewards for all of you.
Seeing James quietly eating fruit, John Smith snorted and looked at him with disdain.
Unfriendly, some people, even though they're just employees, act like they're more important than the manager. I wonder who gave them that attitude.
Unfriendly? Of course not. Disrespecting the boss shows a lack of morals. Manager Smith is our backbone. We all follow Manager Smith.
John Smith wanted to get rid of James.
Smirking, isn't that right, James?
John Smith reached out to pat James's face. James's anger flared up instantly. He grabbed John Smith's hand and twisted it down, causing him to scream in pain.
Serious. Sorry, I have a reflex condition. It was just an instinctive reaction.
Angry, James Anderson, I'll make you pay for this.
Let's get up first.
Someone shouted Manager John, and a group of people rushed to help John Smith.
You'll regret this.
I ignored him, leaving right in front of him.
I'll fire you tomorrow.
But it didn't go as he wished. The next day, I went to work as usual, swaggering past John Smith. John Smith was furious but couldn't do anything about it. The company had a strict rule: unless it was a major issue, no employee would be let go before the year-end performance review. This rule was my dad's idea to attract talent, and it was these humane measures that helped our company remain in the Fortune 500. After that incident, most colleagues avoided me, except for David Johnson, who still talked to me. John Smith kept a close watch on us, hoping to find any small mistake to get us fired. Fortunately, both David Johnson and I were hired based on our abilities. We were cautious in our work and didn't make any mistakes. Just as I was starting to enjoy seeing John Smith's frustrated face, he suddenly disappeared. 3 days later, John Smith was still absent, and David Johnson breathed a sigh of relief.
Good thing he's gone. Otherwise, we'd definitely be let go by the end of the year.
It doesn't make sense for him to let us off so easily.
As I suspected, a week later, John Smith returned with a bang and announced a notice.
To prevent certain parasites from hindering the department's development, there will be layoffs soon.
John Smith smirked and looked at me with a challenging gaze. It seemed his backer was indeed powerful enough to get the higher-ups to approve layoffs. It was time to call my dad to prevent certain parasites from hindering the company's development. David Johnson returned from the break room and slumped into his chair, looking desperate.
We're done for.
What's wrong? You didn't react this strongly when you heard about the layoffs.
It's worse. Do you know what they're saying?
What are they saying?
They're saying the chairman's son is in our department.
What? How do you know?
I hadn't called my dad yet. How did everyone know my true identity? It didn't make sense.
Actually, I didn't mean to.
I know you didn't mean to drag me down. We're good friends, let's not talk about this.
Brothers stick together. Worst case, we'll sell sweet potatoes together.
Huh.
Seeing my bewildered expression, David Johnson thought I was scared.
It's okay, it's okay. So what if John Smith is the chairman's son? At most, we'll be forced out of this industry, but it won't completely ruin us. Sigh. I should have figured it out. If it weren't for the chairman's protection, our director wouldn't be so subservient to him, and he wouldn't be getting thousands of dollars in bonuses. Only a rich kid could be that wealthy.
What did you say? John Smith is the chairman's son? If he's my dad's son, then who am I?
Yeah, even his lackeys know about it. I didn't believe it at first, but now even the director has acknowledged it.
Seeing that James wasn't responding, David waved his hand in front of his face.
Scared stiff?
A bit, yeah.
James needed to call his dad now. When did he get another son? Does his mom know? Just as James was about to step out to make the call, he bumped into Charles Thompson and his group coming out of the break room.
Oh, now you're scared? Too late.
You never learn, do you? Want to lose another year's bonus?
When James first joined the company, Charles tried to take credit for a proposal James worked hard on. James reported him, and Charles lost a year's bonus. He probably still doesn't understand how James got justice so easily.
Wait until the layoff list comes out at the end of the month. Let's see how arrogant you are then.
Charles is the chairman's son. You messed with him, so get ready to be laid off.
David couldn't hold back and pointed at the bespectacled guy, cursing.
You ungrateful jerk! When your mom was seriously ill and needed money, James lent you $200,000 without a second thought. Now you're stabbing us in the back!
He then pointed at another person.
And you, when John Smith first came, he docked your bonus for a month. You cursed him like crazy. Now you're pretending otherwise?
You're lying. I've always respected Manager Smith.
Just then, John Smith came out of his office.
What's all this noise? James Anderson, have you lost your mind? Believe it or not, I can get you fired with one phone call.
James pretended to be scared and took a step back.
Oh no, please don't fire me.
John looked at James with disdain, as if he were a stray dog.
Regret it now? Too late.
James's face fell. He needed to stop messing around, or someone might really take him for a fool. Seeing his expression, the others became even more smug. The others began to close in, looking triumphant.
Pack your things and get out. What are you waiting for? The security to throw you out.
James was about to punch John Smith when David frantically signaled to him, "Bonus, bonus." James got it. The company doesn't tolerate fighting. If caught, he'd be fired, and being fired is different from being laid off. No bonus if you're fired. David Johnson looked at me with concern.
But aren't you afraid he'll terminate your employment? The director mentioned he has strong backing.
I patted David's shoulder, trying to ease his worries.
I've got my own connections. He won't dare fire me.
I had the biggest connection of all. Unless my dad said otherwise, no one could fire me.
Just be careful not to give John Smith any more reasons to target you.
I shrugged helplessly. No one believed I had connections. To celebrate not being laid off, David insisted on treating me to dinner. I glanced at him, appreciating his loyalty despite his naivety.
Let's go somewhere nice tonight. It's on me.
I smiled and decided to take him to the Rolex store in the mall.
Why are we here? I was going to treat you to dinner, not window shop for watches I can't afford.
Just looking around. Didn't you always want a watch?
A watch here costs at least tens of thousands. That's almost 3 months of my salary.
Just a few $100,000, no big deal. I'll get it for you.
David's eyes widened, thinking I had lost my mind. Just as I was about to ask the sales associate to wrap up a green diamond watch, two familiar figures appeared.
Oh, a pauper shopping in a luxury store?
I met Emily Davis's shocked gaze.
What are you doing here?
Weren't you going to a party with your girlfriends?
Let me introduce you. This is my girlfriend, Emily. You wouldn't happen to know her, would you?
I chuckled coldly. Everyone in our department knew Emily was my girlfriend.
Is what he said true?
A flash of discomfort crossed Emily's face.
I'm sorry. I've wanted to break up for a while but didn't want to hurt your pride. Meeting John gave me the courage.
I almost laughed out of anger. It wasn't John who gave her the courage, it was money. We had been together for 3 years, and she always said I was her lucky star, getting the job offer she dreamed of and winning tens of thousands in random prizes. But she didn't know that I had arranged everything. John Smith waved his hand in front of his nose, speaking sarcastically.
What's that awful smell? How can just anyone walk into the store these days?
The sales associate understood immediately and made a move to kick David Johnson and me out.
How can you be like this? We're customers, after all.
The sales associate maintained her superior attitude, offering a fake apology.
I'm really sorry, but Mr. Smith is our VIP and has the right to exclusive service.
Who told you I'm not a VIP?
With that, I took out my phone and called the Rolex manager who always handled my purchases.
Mr. Anderson, I just received a new shipment and was about to send it over for you to choose from.
No need. Your sales associate is trying to kick me out.
What? Which sales associate? I'll be right there.
2nd floor of the mall.
John Smith looked at me, suddenly angry.
Are you done yet? Do you really think this trick works every time? Last time, it was just because the old man gave a temporary order that you weren't fired.
We've been together for 2 years. I know your family situation. There's no need to pretend just for a moment of satisfaction. Isn't it childish?
2 years together, huh? Sorry, but you really don't know my family.
Hearing me repeat 2 years together, a flash of embarrassment and anger crossed Emily Davis's eyes.
You're a nobody. Being with you for 2 years was already generous. You're not even worth a strand of John's hair.
Suddenly, a voice came from the entrance.
Mr. Anderson.
Everyone turned to look. The sales associate was shocked when she saw who it was and spoke nervously.
Manager, why are you here?
The manager ignored her and walked straight to me.
It's my fault for not training my staff well enough. I apologize for the disrespect, Mr. Anderson.
I waved my hand, indicating it was fine. The manager sighed in relief and then turned to the sales associate with a stern face.
You're dismissed. Don't come to work tomorrow.
The sales associate was stunned, and John Smith was also in disbelief. He looked at the manager incredulously.
Are you sure you have the right person? I'm the real Mr. Smith.
Which Mr. Smith are you? I've never heard of you.
He's a VIP here, the son of the chairman of Star C Group.
The manager sneered and looked at the bewildered sales associate.
Who told you he's the son of the chairman of Shanghai Group?
The manager glanced at me respectfully.
As far as I know, the chairman of Shanghai Group has only one son, and that's this young man, Mr. Lin.
This statement was like a bombshell, leaving John Smith and his 2 companions completely stunned. David Johnson also widened his eyes at me. I couldn't be bothered with John Smith and his friends anymore. I took out my black card and paid the bill. The manager respectfully escorted David Johnson and me to the door. We walked quite a distance before David Johnson finally closed his mouth, looking at me in disbelief.
Are you really the chairman's son?
I hinted at it before, but you didn't believe me. It's not my fault.
How could I have believed it? Oh my God, I never even dreamed that my colleague would be a wealthy heir.
The next second, David Johnson looked at his watch and started laughing to himself.
Buddy, being friends with you is well deserved.
I had originally thought about promoting him to a leadership position in the future, but now it seemed unnecessary. He wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. Since leaving the mall, Emily Davis had been calling me nonstop. I didn't even look at my phone and put it on Do Not Disturb. David Johnson patted my shoulder, pretending to be experienced.
Man, everyone gets a little unlucky in love sometimes. Losing you is her loss. Look on the bright side, at least you won't be losing money to her anymore.
David Johnson's words woke me up. When Emily Davis called again, I answered. As soon as I picked up, I heard her crying.
James, I know I was wrong. Please forgive me this once.
Stop. Serious. I'll give you 1 day to move out of the house I bought. If you don't, you'll be thrown out.
With that, I decisively hung up the phone.
Way to go, Lynn!
She was just a gold digger who cheated on me. I wasn't going to let it get to me. When I got back to the villa, my mom called.
What's up? I've been busy with the handover all day and didn't notice your calls.
Mom, do you think Dad has been acting strange lately? Hopeful.
My mom sounded puzzled.
No, he still checks in with me every day. Everything seems normal.
As far as I could remember, my parents had always been a model couple. My mom was strong-willed, and my dad was gentle and meticulous. They complemented each other perfectly. If it weren't for the current situation, I would never have suspected my dad of infidelity.
A new manager was recently appointed in our department, claiming to be the chairman's son. Dad's reaction was also quite odd. I suggest looking into it.
My mom was silent for 2 seconds.
Okay, I understand.
Our calm conversation made me, as their son, a bit anxious.
Mom, if Dad really cheated, what would you do?
Divorce him, kick him out of the company, and leave him with nothing.
I silently prayed for my dad and myself, hoping it was all a misunderstanding. Otherwise, if he got kicked out, I'd be forced to take over the chairman's position. Just thinking about it gave me a headache. I still wanted to enjoy my youth for a few more years. The next morning, I arrived at the office to find breakfast on my desk. David Johnson eagerly pulled out my chair.
Please have a seat, Lynn.
Tone it down. I don't want to act like some nouveau riche. Cheerful.
Speak of the devil, John Smith walked up to me with a cup of coffee. His previous arrogance and disdain were gone, replaced by flattery and ingratiation.
I didn't recognize who you were before. Please forgive me.
Seeing this, his group of sycophants were all stunned.
Manager Lynn, you hopeful.
A flash of anger crossed John Smith's face.
Shut up. You were the one who deliberately stirred up trouble between me and Lynn, causing misunderstandings. Your actions violated company policy. You can pack your things and leave tomorrow.
Charles Thompson was scolded harshly, his face turning extremely unpleasant, but he didn't dare to retaliate. Seeing this, the others quietly returned to their desks, pretending they hadn't seen anything. I chuckled lightly. Manager John is right. Robert Wilson did violate company rules and can't stay. Seeing my agreement, John Smith's tense expression relaxed a bit. I then continued. But he's not the only one who broke the rules. So did you. John Smith visibly panicked.
It's a misunderstanding. Robert Wilson instigated me. I didn't mean it.
At this point, Charles Thompson realized he would definitely be fired and stopped pretending, cursing at John Smith.
Misunderstanding my foot. You have no shame. Wasn't it you who instructed me to do it? Now you're pushing all the blame on me? Ask Michael Green and Stephen White. If it wasn't to please you, would we have targeted John Smith?
The two mentioned lowered their heads in tacit agreement. I waved my hand to stop Charles Thompson from continuing. You have a point. Manager John, for your poor judgment and misuse of personnel, you should also be fired. I called the HR director, who arrived 2 minutes later, nodded at me with a smile, and then handed dismissal letters to John Smith and Charles Thompson.
Sign these and pack your things to leave the company.
John Smith clutched the dismissal letter tightly.
Who gave the order?
The chairman.
Those 3 simple words shattered John Smith's hopes. He and Charles Thompson left the company with their boxes, looking like defeated dogs. Even the most clueless among the remaining employees realized my identity wasn't simple. I decided not to hide anymore and revealed that I was the chairman's son. I explained that I had been working incognito to gain experience from the ground up. Those who had previously mocked me were now eager to apologize. In the office, seeing everyone trembling with fear, I spoke calmly. No need to be so nervous. Although your previous behavior disappointed me, I understand it was all for survival. Everyone here has some talent. I won't fire anyone for now. We'll review things at the end of the year. If the performance isn't up to par, we'll handle it accordingly. Hearing this, everyone breathed a sigh of relief and promised to work hard and not let me down. I observed my mom's expression.
So why did you arrange for him to join the company and let him bully our son?
Honey, I honestly didn't know about this beforehand. As soon as our son told me, I fired him.
My dad frantically signaled to me with his eyes.
I can vouch for that. John Smith was indeed fired.
Seeing that my mom hadn't forgiven him yet, my dad continued to repent and explain.
I swear, for the rest of my life, I will only love my wife and never have any bad thoughts.
My dad had even prepared a contract stating that if they divorced, he would transfer all his shares in the company to my mom and leave with nothing. After a long time of coaxing, my mom finally calmed down. I secretly gave my dad a thumbs up and breathed a sigh of relief, glad that I didn't have to take over the company prematurely. I always believed that the key to a successful marriage was one partner being willing to explain and the other being willing to forgive. So when Emily Davis suddenly became distant, I thought she was just in a bad mood. Little did I know she had found a wealthy man and didn't want to deal with me anymore. I was a joker. The next morning, as I was leaving the company, I saw John Smith waiting at the entrance. When he saw me, he bowed and scraped, his face full of flattery, completely devoid of the arrogance of a chairman's son.
I've already kicked Emily Davis out. It was that woman's fault for seducing me. I didn't know she was your girlfriend. If I had known, I wouldn't have dared. Considering we share the same father, can you forgive me this once and reinstate my position?
I had initially wanted to enjoy his performance, but when I heard we share the same father, I almost felt sick. I quickly waved him off.
Stop disgusting me. Rest assured, you'll never set foot in any company under the Star C Group again.
John Smith, furious, made a move to punch me, but before I could react, 2 security guards rushed out and restrained him. The guards didn't forget to greet me with a smile.
Hello, young master.
I rubbed my forehead, realizing I was back to the boring days of being fawned over. That afternoon, I went to collect the house on time.
James, I really know I was wrong. Please forgive me this once, okay?
I'm not worthy of being with you. After all, I can't even compare to a strand of John Smith's hair. You should go find him.
Emily Davis's eyes filled with tears, making it seem like she had suffered a great injustice.
I was just momentarily confused. I promise it won't happen again.
From her words, I learned that after I fired John Smith, he had slapped her a few times in anger and took back the bags and jewelry he had given her. Typical John Smith, taking everything back.
Now, I'm the chairman's son. Your current job is essentially through the back door. I'll arrange for HR to reassess you. If you pass, you can stay. If not, you'll have to find another job.
With that, I didn't look at Emily Davis again and turned to go inside. 2 days later, the assessment results came out. Emily Davis didn't pass and was dismissed. She came to me again, pitifully begging for forgiveness. I decisively shut her out and warned her that if she came back, I'd call the police for harassment. Since my true identity was revealed, the fun of pretending to be poor was gone, and I didn't feel like going to the office anymore. So, I took my guitar and started performing at a small bar. At 8 p.m., I finished my gig and headed home. As I passed a corner, a figure suddenly rushed out, holding a knife. He had his face covered, and I thought I was being robbed. I was a bit nervous until he spoke, and then I instantly relaxed.
James Anderson, you just got lucky being born into a good family. What's there to be so smug about?
I beckoned him with a challenging smile.
There's no surveillance here. Transfer $1 million to me, or I'll end you.
If it were a professional robber, I might have been worried. But John Smith? He was nothing. Did he really think my 10 years of martial arts training were for nothing?
Die!
I immediately kicked him in the abdomen, sending him sprawling to the ground, the knife flying several meters away. John Smith cried out in pain, clutching his stomach and unable to get up. I casually stepped on his wrist, the sound of bones cracking accompanied by his screams.
No surveillance, huh? I like that.
When he was in so much pain that he was about to pass out, I calmly called 911, reporting that someone was attacking with a knife. The police arrived quickly and took both John Smith and me away. I accused John Smith of attempted harm.
Officer, don't believe him. He tried to rob me and beat me up.
I sneered and calmly took out my phone, playing a recording.
James Anderson, you just got lucky being born into a good family. What's there to be so smug about? There's no surveillance here. Transfer $1 million to me, or I'll end you. D.
From the moment he appeared, I had secretly started recording on my phone, just in case.
How did you?
How did I record it? Because I not only got lucky being born into a good family, but I also have a good brain.
The police officer gave me a thumbs up.
Good thing you were smart. Otherwise, this would have been hard to handle.